Okay guys, so what we're going to be talking about today is taking things up a level in terms of your results. This could be looking better visually, it could be losing body fat, building muscle, it could be improving performance, it could be a combination of both. Essentially doing the shit that other people don't and won't do. The reason I wanted to make a video about this is because a lot of the conversations that I have on Instagram, LinkedIn, and with people in the gym is they want to take things up a level. They might be reasonably happy with how they look, but they don't really understand how to take it up a level. So that might be to improve their performance. How do they put on a little bit more muscle? How do they lose a bit more body fat? So I'm going to be addressing in this video the things that you need to do in order to do that. So what do I actually mean by this? A lot of people that I speak to, obviously on Instagram through consultation calls and things like that, some people are training a lot, but a lot of people are really just doing the kind of bare minimum with their health and fitness. They're going to the gym, going through the motions, and they're not really very on point with their nutrition and not really closely monitoring it. They don't really understand how much they're consuming day to day. They don't know how to fuel effectively for the goals that they have visually and performance wise. And then they wonder why they're in average shape or worse shape than they've been in the past. And I will kind of say, a lot of people that I'm having these conversations with, they're normal corporate workers, they've got social lives and things like that. So in order to get in really good shape and take to the next level whilst you're balancing that sort of stuff, you really have to be on point with your training and nutrition. A lot of people do train, but we often find that they're training fairly inconsistently. That doesn't mean taking, a week or 2 weeks off the gym. It just means that if they're telling themselves they're following a strength training program 4 days a week, more often than not, they're skipping, at least one workout every 2 weeks. So they're not actually completing all the sessions that they tell themselves they are. Nutrition, I find that a lot of people just aren't monitoring their nutrition closely enough. That doesn't even mean tracking calories day to day. It's just more down to, I guess, a lack of understanding of what they're actually consuming, how much they're consuming, and when to consume it, when would be most optimal for their goals. So a lot of people, they're unhappy with the way they look, they're training consistently, and they don't track their nutrition very consistently either. And I think something that a lot of people just simply don't really understand is it's actually really quite hard to one, get in really, really good shape, and two, maintain that condition or close to that year round. It is hard, it's meant to be hard. Like, I've been training for 13 years and I do find the process hard to remain under 10% body fat year round, to progress in strength training and running. And if you are into hybrid training, you probably are if you're watching these videos, I actually think it's harder to stay in shape when you are balancing strength training and running as opposed to just doing strength training. And that might sound a little bit strange to some people, because a lot of people think, oh, well, if I'm exercising more, I'm doing more activity, it's going to be much easier to stay lean. Yes, it's true that your expenditure is high, but what I personally battle with, and from working with a lot of other people that train in this way, you're constantly fighting this kind of battle of a lot of training equals, for most people, a high appetite. So I've definitely been leaner than I am now when I was just doing strength training. Back then, my appetite was nowhere near as high. I found that incorporating running in my routine, obviously it's super enjoyable, it's the way that I love to train, but it does leave you hungry, throughout the day. So if you want to stay lean year round and balance strength training and running, you've got to learn to, yes, eat enough calories and specifically carbohydrates and protein to fuel and support your recovery and performance. But equally, you've got to make sure that you're not over consuming and over fueling to the point where you actually start to gain weight or just you stop yourself from getting leaner. What I actually found about 3 years ago when I started running more, I was eating more intuitively then. Obviously, I had a good knowledge surrounding nutrition, but I wasn't tracking calories. So I was just listening to my appetite to kind of dictate what I was eating. I actually found that I gained about 3 kilos because obviously I was doing running that was new to my routine. I was doing the same amount of strength training that I was, and I was eating more because my appetite was higher, and I actually went from like 79 to 83 kilos over the space of a few months. Like, that was fine. I actually ended up building a lot of muscle, which I was happy about. But yeah, it just goes to show it's not just about doing a lot of activity equals being lean. It's about balancing everything and understanding what you're consuming. So things I'm going to talk about here, the things that you need to do to take to the next level, is exactly what I did. These are kind of the steps that I took and the kind of minimum standards that I set myself when I got into my photo shoot condition, which was definitely the best shape I've ever been in. I think that was 3 months ago now. And just to give a bit of background, I started the photo shoot prep at, I think, just over 83 kilos. Actually got down to into the 77s for that photo shoot. So not a crazy amount of weight loss, but I was fairly lean to start. And at the moment I'm holding my condition at about 78 kilos 3 months on from this after a reverse diet. So it wasn't easy to get into this shape. It was just a matter of being very disciplined and following the steps I'm going to lay out here. But it just proves to you that you can hold the condition year round if you do the right things and you stay on top of things. Obviously, like that look day to day is probably not sustainable whilst trying to perform well in the gym and running, but it certainly is doable to hold within maybe, a kilo body weight of that. That's what I've done and that's where I'm at now. But these steps are what I'm doing now to hold very close to that condition. So you got to do the hard yards, like do the unglamorous stuff, the stuff that you need to do when no one else is watching, and just understanding that it's meant to be tough. So this is what we're going to get into in a second. It's easy to post on Instagram, put on your story, deadlifting heavy, squatting heavy, bench pressing heavy, whatever it is, eating a clean diet, but it's like you've got to go out and get those steps. You've got to do the cardio when no one's watching. This is the sort of things you need to do to kind of take it to the next level and get into that condition. So training wise, you need to be consistently progressively overloading and tracking the weights. So this is just taking the small wins, adding a little bit of weight to the bar, adding a rep here or there. Obviously, the more experienced you are in the gym, especially if you're trying to get lean and lose body fat, the harder it's going to be to progressively overload. So for me, for example, the last 2 weeks, I got an extra rep on my overhead press, top working set last week, and I was pleased by that. A lot of people wouldn't even think of that. They wouldn't even track the weight and they wouldn't even think that was a big win. But if you can consistently do that over time, you will not only, it's going to help you stay lean by staying strong, but it's those small wins that add up over time. And as I say, going for the extra rep each week that most people wouldn't even remember what they did the week before, and they probably wouldn't push for it in the first place. Like, it was hard for me to get that 5th rep. Doing the exercises that you don't enjoy. A lot of people just enjoy going into the gym and training the muscle groups that they like, chest, back, arms, shoulders, whatever. But are you really going in there and putting in the work, lifting heavy with the lower body? Because it's those big compound movements, training your lower body is half your body, doing those exercises that people don't enjoy, that are painful, but they're going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of building muscle and keeping your metabolism high, which is what you need to do if you're looking to get leaner and maintain a good condition. And doing mobility work as well. Obviously, we are kind of functional trainers. We do hybrid training, so I spend a lot of time doing mobility work that is specific to me, but that is ultimately going to help me get more out of my performance, which is then going to help me build strength, build fitness, going to help me look better. So consistently progressively overloading in the gym is absolute key, and you should be doing that year round, regardless of whether you're looking to bulk up or cut down. Doing the kind of exercises that maybe aren't the most glamorous, and doing movement and mobility work if you need to. That's things that a lot of people miss out. Nutrition. So I firmly believe that it is very, very useful to track calories for a certain amount of time, even if that's just for a period of 3 to 6 months. I've been on and off with tracking calories for the last 10 years. I've been lifting for 13 years. Honestly, not many people track calories when I started lifting. It's become a lot more popular over the last kind of 5 to 8, I would say. Back then, I just focused on eating as much as possible, and it worked. I put on a lot of muscle in the first few years, as everyone does. But now I pretty much track year round. I probably take maybe between 2 and 4 weeks off tracking calories a year. I don't see it as a chore. It's just part of my routine. It's my job. I'm happy to do that. But what it will give you is the knowledge to kind of understand how many calories are in certain foods, but also the macro profile of these foods as well. And then if you do want to move on to intuitively eating in the future, you've got that baseline knowledge. But tracking and or monitoring nutrition is going to be absolutely essential to get in shape. And I think those two things I've mentioned there, progressively overloading and monitoring your nutrition, are the two things that make the biggest changes with all our clients when they come on board. Obviously, like how much you're tracking in the macro is going to be specific to you, your body weight, gender, activity level, goals, things like that. But yeah, absolute game changer. Nutrition really is 50% of the equation. Obviously, manipulating macros to suit your goals. As I've said there, so if you're more of a performance athlete, we would probably encourage you to have a slightly higher carbohydrate intake, obviously high protein intake, and then potentially slightly lower fat, just to make sure that you are fueled for your performance, replenishing your glycogen stores after runs, things like that. And you might need to consider just removing certain things from your diet. I'm not saying that there's any bad foods, but it's just important to understand that, there are some things that you could eat that just do not serve your goals. So for me, eating half a kilo of dairy milk every night is just not going to suit my goals. So I'm obviously not going to do that. There's certain things in my diet now that I might not have ate in the past, and vice versa. But that's fine. It's just a kind of sacrifice that you need to make. But I wouldn't recommend completely removing things because you think they're a bad food. It's just about understanding that they don't probably fit your calorie and macro profile for your goals right now if you want to take it up a level. Expenditure, absolutely massive. So that is your expenditure outside of the gym, exclusive of the training that you're doing in the gym or running. So for most people, this is step count, an incredibly effective way to lose body fat quickly, increasing your step count. That was a big part of what I did when I did my photo shoot. I had my steps up at 18 to 20k. Obviously a lot of that was contributed to by the running, but simply increasing your step count by 25 to 50% would probably have a big change would yield a big change on your body composition. But obviously it's not a case of just hitting a certain amount of steps. You've got to actually put in the time to do that. Anyone who's maintained a step count of over 15k knows that takes a lot of time. Like some people, if they're commuting to work, they're walking back and forward from work, walking to the gym, it's going to be easier to hit that. But for me, I'm in Dubai, drive everywhere, so I actually have to put in the time to go and get my steps. And obviously within that, you need to be organized to do that. You've got to iron out, an hour to an hour and a half maybe throughout the day to get your steps in. I personally like to do like a decent walk in the morning, get a few steps, just going about my day-to-day stuff through the day, and then getting a few steps on the treadmill at the gym, and then adding a bit in from my running too, and that usually has me at my expenditure goal. But that is, well, maintaining a high expenditure through steps is a great way to, as I've said, lose body fat quickly, but also allow you to eat more food, because you're burning more calories through that, so you can afford to eat more calories, which is what I like to do, move more and eat more, because I've got a high appetite. Most people, because they're so sedentary these days, they don't naturally hit a high step count, but it really is a game changer. I just remember there was one time I got rid of my car for a month, and I was PTing at the time, so I was walking back and forward from work, and I didn't change anything else. Didn't change my training, didn't change my running, didn't change my nutrition, but I think I lost like 2 kilos just from simply seeing my steps go from 10 to 15k a day for about a month. So incredibly effective. Social life and events, this does not mean ruling them out completely. Like, we train lifestyle clients, we don't train prep clients, bodybuilders, things like that. So it's unrealistic for us to expect people to not go and socialize, and I wouldn't recommend it. I'm a social person myself, so you don't need to completely rule them out, but it may be useful and effective for a short period of time to significantly cut down, for example, how often you are drinking. I honestly think if you're drinking more than once a week, it's going to be very difficult to get in shape, and I honestly wouldn't recommend drinking once a week if you're looking to get really lean. Most of the clients on our program, they might drink between once every 2 and 4 weeks. Some of them don't even drink at all. I think a lot of people could benefit from being more selective with the social events that they go to. I think a lot of people just go to way too many just because out of routine and habit, but it is going to make it a lot more difficult to kind of get in really, really good shape if you are drinking regularly, obviously. As I mentioned there, just minimize the quantity and the frequency of alcohol consumption, and you'll just find the standard and the speed of your results. Well, your results will come quicker and you'll get better quality results. So those are just some main tips, things that you need to focus on. They're obviously quite basic, but within that, it's about the little intricacies in terms of like adding the rep on, increasing the weight, tracking your nutrition, sticking to specific macros for your goals, hitting an expenditure target and being consistent with that weekly, monthly, and yearly, and then considering maybe cutting down on some social events that may be holding you back. As always, if you are actually interested in discussing coaching, just go to the link in my bio on Instagram or the link below this video, and you can apply there, and we can set up a consultation call to discuss your goals. But I hope that was useful. This really is what it takes to take it from average condition to good condition, and I think a lot of people don't fully understand how hard it is, but it can be done, but it requires significant time management and organization and routine.